Hello, and welcome to our St. Paul Learn with the League. We present these hour-long programs for our community once a month. Many thanks to the White Bear Lake area and Roseville area leagues for their support for tonight's talk. We'd also like to thank the St. Paul Neighborhood Network and SEC TV, which is the suburban community channels, for broadcasting and taping tonight's program. And you'll be able to check out this program and others on our YouTube channel anytime after this one airs. Our program is being recorded. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box during the presentation, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the talk. Remember that Zoom closed captioning feature is auto-generated, so there may be some inaccuracies. So why are we talking about the Upper Mississippi River tonight? Well, it's a huge impact in our lives here in the St. Paul area and in the metro area, whether we are directly standing in the water or not. What is it? It's by and large a watershed. The Mississippi River Basin covers a huge amount of America's landmass. In order to manage this incredible resource, the Mississippi River Commission was established by an act of Congress in June 28th, 1879. Congress charged this new committee or commission to develop plans to improve the condition of the river, foster navigation, promote commerce, and prevent floods. And perhaps it was the most difficult and complex engineering problem ever undertaken by the federal government up to that time. To manage such a huge force of nature, it's broken into segments, and we sit on the Upper Mississippi River, UMR, we call it. It begins at Lake Itasca in northern Minnesota and flows 1,300 miles to Cairo, Illinois, where it convenes with the Ohio River to form the Lower Mississippi River. Our section links the states of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Missouri. There are approximately 30 million people in the basin who rely on the river as a source of drinking water, food, transportation, power, production, and recreation and employment. It's also known as the Mississippi Flyway. It's a bird highway through the Twin Cities. The Mississippi River Flyway is used by 325 bird species and roughly 40% of the shorebirds and waterfowl in North America. According to Audubon, almost half the bird species in North America spend part of their lives in this flyway. So what does it look like to us, though, sitting here in the metro area? Well, it's part of our tourism postcard. So these should look kind of familiar, a little dramatic. One of my favorites here, the serene aspect of it. And it is lovely, but from my office window in downtown St. Paul, I get to see the barges getting pulled along the river. This picture is courtesy of the Pioneer Press on an article that noted how the water levels can cause so much disruption in commerce. In 2019, the Coast Guard published a report on the impact of flooding on the river, actually, and they estimated the economic sectors of support over 1 million jobs and create more than $345 billion in revenue annually. And of course, it's a muse for artists. A lot of us were introduced to it during our read in the early days of Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn. But this is an iron pour of the river basin, and it's a map, and it hangs in the hall of the Capital Region Watershed District office in St. Paul. It's an amazing installation, just one way. Artists of all kinds have been paying homage to the mighty Mississippi. So why does this particular piece hang in the Cap Region office? Because for those of you who've been following our programs, St. Paul, we know, gets most of its water from the river, and many surrounding municipalities get all of their residential water from the river. St. Paul's water comes from the Mississippi River intake at Findlay. It flows through a chain of lakes that help protect against contaminants, and we have about 10 additional backup wells along the way so that the system can meet our demand. League of Women Voters St. Paul is a regional league under the umbrella of the State League and ultimately under the League of Women Voters US. The league also supports interleague organizations. These are formed when there are issues that transcend political boundaries, and that's especially true for water issues. Our guests tonight will go more in depth here. And if you would come off camera, ladies, our speakers have a long history of sharing their time and expertise. Mary Ellen Miller is a seventh generation Iowan and has been a longtime League member. In the 90s, she chaired the Iowa League's land use policy update and served on the Iowa League of Women Voters board. In addition to serving as the vice president of the Metro Des Moines League, she's also the chair of the League of Women Voters of the Upper Mississippi River Region, the ILO Interleague organization. She gives even more time to her several boards in her area. The other half of this dynamic duo is Gretchen Sable. And Gretchen has spent 35 years working in environmental programs for the state of Minnesota, retiring in 2014 and able to find a second career with the League. She became the first chair of the League of Women Voters Upper Mississippi River Region when it was formed back in 2015. Seems like forever ago, or it seems like yesterday. Either way. She's also served on the board since that time, and her role currently with UMR is the communications director, where she manages website, writes blog posts, and sends out monthly newsletter. Gretchen's president of her local league, the League of Women Voters ABC, which is the Anoka, Blaine, and Coon Rapids. I just learned that. And she also manages to squeeze in a few projects with the state league as time permits. We're really excited to have them here to share the work of this important group in this important river. So I'm going to end sharing and I'm going to throw it over to you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you, Nona. I appreciate that introduction. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the St. Paul League for being a member of UMR, because you and the other 60-some local leagues in our 5-state region are our primary source of revenue. So we very much appreciate your support. You're going to see this map probably several times. We're going to talk about, first of all, what an ILO is, because they are becoming a little bit more common in the country. But as Nona mentioned, the UMR crosses over state lines, just like our river. And we're going to cover our mission, what we're working on, and how you can be part of what we're doing. Slideshow from the beginning. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to cut down this. All right. So we'll go on. So Nona covered, we finally call this UMR to shorten, because League of Women Voters Upper Mississippi River Region Interleague organization gets a little bit long. We are, as most of you know, a structure within the League US. There are 5 states now within UMR. And as we mentioned earlier, each of the local leagues within these 5 states support our work with your annual dues. Interleague organizations are not that uncommon in the League of Women Voters, but we are 2 of the biggest, Lake Michigan and the Upper Mississippi River region. So these incorporate leagues in multiple states. We actually are modeled after the Lake Michigan region, and we overlap in Wisconsin and Illinois and share membership. So within this region, we now incorporate over 60 local leagues, and that covers about 10,000 members in those 5 states that get our newsletter. This is a repeat of the map. We are the largest watershed in the United States. We were incorporated in 2015. Headwaters, of course, are up at Lake Itasca near Bemidji, and we run down to the confluence of the Ohio and southern Missouri. But actually, any league within the watershed that wants to support our work could become a member. We focus on water quality and water quantity, which is almost becoming as important as quality. Like state leagues, we report to League US. Our purpose is to educate, advocate for the river. Common issues that unite leagues. Nutrients flowing into the Gulf have created what we call a dead zone. Most of you are familiar with that. Transporting of hazardous materials on roadways. And as Nona mentioned, the river is a very big commercial transportation area. And also the ecosystems that are along the river, flood risk management, water resource issues, particularly water supply issues. We have an annual program for action. It doesn't change very much year by year. We spend a lot of time looking at federal issues because they will cover the whole watershed. We are built upon the affiliations of our members, but also other organizations. One of the things that I brought to UMR was my work on a lot of other boards, and that is that the league needs to get out of our silo. We need to spend more time collaborating, and fortunately, there are now many, many groups focused on water quality and the river. Later on, I'll share with you a grant that we received from the Mississippi River Network, and that gives us the money to travel an art exhibit along the river this year, promoting water quality. A big part of our work is supporting federal legislation. For those of you who do that kind of advocacy work, you know how complicated it can be. The Mississippi River Restoration and Resilience Initiative, fondly called MIRI, is a big one. Safeguarding our Mississippi River Together, SMART, is another one. And the 2023 Farm Bill reauthorization. Farm Bill is only reauthorized every 5 years. This will be my 4th or 5th Farm Bill reauthorization, so I'm an old hand at it. It's not uncommon that delays happen, especially in presidential election years, and that's what we're seeing happening. It was not reauthorized in 23. It's not going to get reauthorized in 24. I'm not even sure it will be reauthorized until we have a new president, but it's a significant piece affecting water quality in the river because the Farm Bill is where money flows for conservation work. Also, there is a current initiative that's nascent but growing, the Upper Midwest, but it's now called the Mississippi River Compact to protect the river. This is an effort to combine groups of mayors and cities along the river in a collaborative effort. We work with our state leagues and the US to build effective advocacy based on league positions and work on these bills. We cannot take a position on a federal legislation without first getting permission from League US. We struggled with that when we were young, and they were not that familiar with what we're doing, but we now have an arrangement that if we get a request to sign on a piece of legislation or an endorsement, we have been assured that we can turn that around in 24 hours. Sorry, I skipped ahead here. Okay. So nutrients are the big thing. That's why the Farm Bill is so important, because a lot of the nutrients that flow into the river are from agriculture. This is a key thing I wanted to emphasize today because Nona asked us to include different calls for action. We are changing our board this year. So at our annual meeting, we're going to change our bylaws so that each of our states will be allowed to appoint 3 individuals to the UMR board. Right now, we only have 1 and 1 alternate voting director. And as our work has expanded, we have found that that just is not enough chiefs and Indians to get all of the work done. So we're hoping that we expect that it will be well supported at our annual meeting in May. But I give you a heads up because each state will be now asked to appoint 3 members to the UMR board. That board, once elected, then elects the officers. So the officers can come from wherever, and you can see here, this year we have an opening for vice chair, secretary-elect. And now they're still on this screen called alternates because the new bylaws won't take effect until the end of our fiscal year. But keep that in mind if you have an interest in helping us out. I always say the league is in the right place at the right time. Our whole effort is education and awareness of voters and advocacy on issue. And we, particularly at UMR, have a strong focus on coalitions. These are just an example. We have 6 educational programs if we include our annual meeting every year. And all of these are available on our website. They are recorded, and we invite each local league to use these for your own local education and advocacy work. You can pull these off of our website and show them as a program for one of your league meetings. But here's an example of what we looked at this year in depth. Of course, clean energy, CO2 pipelines are a bigger issue right now in the upper Midwest. The Supreme Court decision after Sackett really changed the way wetlands are being viewed after the Clean Water Act. Briefings on the Farm Bill, and then our upcoming meeting, which you'll hear about when Gretchen takes over. What is a watershed? Well, it's pretty simple. It's the area of land that catches rain and snow, drains or seeps into a marsh, stream, river, lake, or a groundwater. I'm particularly interested in becoming a member of UMR because I have spent years dealing with water quality issues in Iowa. I'm a county soil and water conservation district commissioner. Iowa has the most impaired rivers, lakes, and streams in the state. It's a terrible condition for us to be in. We should be hugely embarrassed by it. It's important that we pay attention to the qualities of our watersheds. And you've seen this slide many times. We're the biggest watershed in the United States, and look how far it reaches. So technically, any one of those states could become a member of UMR. This is basically what is defined as the Upper Mississippi River Basin. I think most of you know, and if you don't, this is the 100th anniversary of the Upper Mississippi Fish and Wildlife Refuge. And so we're collaborating with them this summer with our art exhibit, as they also are celebrating up and down the river that covers our same area. Nutrient pollution is our #1 issue revolving around the river. Most of you will recognize this as from Lake Itasca. I had a summer cabin on Cass Lake, Minnesota for 25 years. I've walked across this many times. And actually about most of the miles down to Bemidji are not navigable. You can walk most of the way, except along the way it gets pretty tall with reeds. So what are the issues that transcend the political boundaries, right? We know water doesn't respect boundaries. It doesn't matter if you're urban or rural and suburban. Everybody has an impact on the nutrient pollution. Given the media attention, sometimes we hear a little too much about fertilizing our lawns and golf courses, but that's a minor contributor, as we'll see in a moment. But it's the biggest issue that we have regarding the pollution in the river and its tributaries. Each of these 5 states do have nutrient reduction practices and strategies in place. I'll be blunt, Iowa's a Band-Aid. It doesn't do anything. It's just a feel good. We're going to pretend that we have a nutrient reduction strategy, a voluntary one, but nobody follows it. Here's the real data. 70% of the nutrient pollution comes from farm fields. That's mostly through drain tiles. Iowa is the biggest contributor to the dead zone. Runoff from crops that are planted too close to waterways. We call it recreational tillage, when farmers go out and till their fields in the fall, because there's no reason to do that. Actually, there's no reason to do any tillage in crop fields anymore, but it still happens. So only 20 to 30% comes from urban, residential, industrial, and water treatment plants. Most people are familiar with the dead zone. It moves. It's not the same every year. We've all are in our 3rd year of Midwest drought, so it's lessened to some extent. A lot of concerns are about what happens if we get some heavy rainfalls this spring, because after 3 years of drought in a state like Iowa, all of those farm fields are sitting, holding 3 years of nitrogen and phosphorus, not 1 year. And if we get heavy, heavy rainfalls, that's all going to flood our system. That will have a huge impact on the dead zone. It moves, it changes every year. And you can see on the bottom the effect of the area through 21. Here you can see the biggest contributors of nitrogen and phosphorus. Iowa just had probably the worst liquid nitrogen spill in history. 265 million gallons seeped out of a valve in a fertilizer business in Montgomery County, Iowa, in the very southwest corner a couple weeks ago. Some employee didn't tighten the valve down tight on Friday, and the leak was not discovered until Monday morning. By that time, it had traveled down 50 miles in the East Nestabotner River, where I was born. That river is only flowing 7% right now because of the drought. So that liquid fertilizer is going to sit there. And again, once the spring rains come, that's going to wash down and flood into the Missouri. Primary contributors, of course, corn. King corn rules in the upper Midwest. This is where you can see most of it. And then here, this shows you where the soybeans are grown. One of the contributors is there's no real guide that farmers use on how much nitrogen and phosphorus they dump on their fields. I was raised on a farm. I'm a farmer myself. I own a farm now. I do not do commodity supported row crops. But the challenge for a farmer is simply, well, maybe to be safe, I'll just dump on more. And that's what brings us to the problems we have today. So a lot of what we're doing is educating our members because, quite frankly, most league members are urbans. And they're not familiar with the impact of corporate ag on the quality of the river water and the dead zone. So we spend a lot of time offering educational programs around these issues. Again, we focus a lot of attention on federal legislation. Partnerships, I will mention often and often because they're important. There are so many good organizations now joining the cause of water quality, particularly. We are a member of the Mississippi River Network, covers all 10 states on the river. We are a member of Clean Water for All, another national coalition of organizations. And we partner with the Isaac Walton League, the Land Stewardship Project, and we also have relationships with each of our 5 state environmental units. So we hope you will take heart from this message today. We hope this inspires you to do something more at your local league level. And if you want to know more and participate more, join us. You can attend your local Upper Mississippi River Basin Association meetings. You can participate in the League of Women Voters Minnesota Observer Corps. As I mentioned before, all of our programs are recorded. You can download those and use those. We have a very active action committee, and you can join that without being on the board. You'll learn a lot doing that. And you'll learn a bit more later about the Mississippi River Network River Day of Action every day in June. We like to say, we all know our zip code. We all know our area code. We all should know our watershed. Why is that important? A couple of years ago, the University of Missouri School of Journalism did a survey of the 5 states in our region. They asked very simple questions about what people knew about the Mississippi River watershed. To my embarrassment, 90% of Iowans responded they didn't live in the Mississippi River watershed. That was a stunning report. It makes us all shake our heads. So water is life. This is what we're working for. And Gretchen's going to tell you more about how you can get engaged.
Yeah. Thanks, Mary Ellen. You want to advance the slide here? So as a communication director, my job is to manage the website and the blog and the newsletter, those kinds of things. No, back. So this is our website, lwvumrr.org. If you go there on this is our homepage. You'll be able to sign up for our newsletter there. Got a trigger figure there, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, you ready? I'm sorry, my cursor's not behaving.
Yes, okay. And like Mary Ellen said, every 2 months, in even numbered months, we have a program, an educational program. Our one coming up on April 4th is this Clean Water Forever campaign the group in Illinois is working on. Because we service 5 states, we rotate the topics of interest to the states, and this time we're looking at work that's being done in Illinois. If you want to join that, you can just go to our homepage and then click on blog and you'll find this link there. Advance now, please. Membership in UMR, like Mary Ellen said, it's our dues that give us most of our money. The dues for each leagues are members, not people. So each league that joins gives us $25 a year, which isn't a lot, but we, just like every other organization that's mostly virtual, we have a cost for a website and a few things. So that gets us by and it's good. So if you want to join as a league, there's information in this membership page. If you want to donate, there's also a donate button on there, so you can donate as an individual. Okay, now go on. We're having an annual meeting on May 29th. It's going to be called Expanding Our Reach and Extending Our Influence. This is kind of our year of growth. We just added Missouri. We've got a growing board, and so we're going to be looking at that as our topic. The business meeting will be back, May 29th at 5:30. And we're hoping that we can get people to attend. Each league can send 1 delegate. And there's no cost to anybody can come, but only the delegate can vote. Okay, now go on. Advance, there you go. We have a monthly newsletter and it comes out monthly. And you can sign up on that homepage to get it. If you don't already, we have almost 1,000 people on our mailing list. So there's a goodly number of people on the mailing list already. And we would love to have you as well if you're not there. Next. We have a Facebook page, and we try to be relatively active in posting on that and also post events that are water-related events from other member leagues. Next. Got another one there, Mary Ellen? Advance the slide, please.
Sorry, I'm trying here, Gretchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we were going to share after this, we were going to talk about
I'm sorry, Gretchen.
Action Committee. The Action Committee was the slide. There you go. Members monitor legislative activity in states. So Mary Ellen did a good job at talking about how she brought the work that she's been doing in other areas into League. We coordinate with like-minded organizations. We have monthly meetings of the Action Committee. And if you're active in a water field in, a nonprofit, say, we would love to have you join as well so that we can bring the work that those groups are doing into League, help amplify those voices and vice versa, share what we do. Mary Ellen was talking a little bit about the federal legislation, the one bill, MRRI, Mississippi River Resilience and Restoration Initiative. Betty McCollum is the chief author in the House, and she now has bicameral support. So there's a bill in the Senate as well. We will probably need help from people in St. Paul, her constituents, from time to time, and we would love to have you active in the Action Committee if this bill ever gets dislodged in Congress. So that's our Action Committee. And like I said, we would love to have you join. You can find our email. We'll move on. I think the email might be the next one here. Can you move the slide? Hey, well, there's our annual meeting. Okay, we already talked about that. Next slide. There we are. So there's us. Mary Ellen has her information there. You can reach me through that email address at the bottom, lwvumrr@lwvmn.org. I would love to have you on the action committee. I would love to have you get the newsletter. You can sign up through the website. And there's many other ways to engage with us. So please reach out, and we would love to have you. Thank you. Okay, Mary Ellen, you can stop sharing now.
Mhm.
Thanks, Heidi, for putting that up.
All right. Well, Mary Ellen, I think you and I were going to chat real quickly about the art installation that is going to be traveling through. There's a pop-up art exhibit. We do have some questions coming in though, so we can go ahead and ask those if we wanted to pause on the art installation.
Okay, go ahead and do a question. We'll get
Sure.
here.
I've got a question that's come in about fertilizer and the role of animal waste and manure. Is the fertilizer spill or the nitrogen and the phosphorus, does that come from animal manure or does that come from fertilizer, or are they both the same thing?
People use animal manure as fertilizer, of course. That was how we used to do it in the olden days, and then chemical fertilizers were introduced, and it's cheaper now. So the spill that Mary Ellen was talking about on Anishinaabe, that was a chemical fertilizer. In Minnesota, we've had many manure fertilizer spills. I used to work in the feedlot program during one of my different jobs, and so we did have a lot of that kind of work too. And the state of Minnesota has actually moved ahead. We have different laws now than other states. We don't allow winter application of fertilizers or manures, and we also don't we regulate in certain areas where the groundwater is more vulnerable, and so we're ahead of many states in that way,
Okay.
which is appropriate because we're a headwater state, so we need to be.
So we're ahead of the water at the headwaters.
We are.
But there's another question to follow up on that about the farm bill. It seems like it's going to pass. If so, does it pay any attention, or what level of detail does it provide on water guidance?
The
The farm bill is really an appropriations bill.
Okay.
A lot of the regulation comes through EPA or through Clean Water, Clean Air Act, through regulations around the Corps of Engineers. So the Farm Bill is only an appropriations bill, but the reason we pay attention to it is because a big chunk of that, after you take out SNAP, 75% of the Farm Bill is SNAP. That's a long political story, but conservation funding is a big chunk that we focus on because that encourages landowners to do practices that prevent soil erosion and prevent nutrient flow into waters. So they do edge of stream practices rather than planting crops right up to the edge of the field, right where a stream is. They'll put a buffer strip in and they'll be paid to do that. They're paid to put in grass waterways. They're paid to put in tiling. They can put in stream bed riparian structures where you plant trees. So there are all kinds of programs within the Farm Bill that support conservation practices that support clean water.
Okay.
and SNAP that Mary Ellen was talking about was the food stamps, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
Perfect. Now, as a follow-up, additionally, and to point back to something you had mentioned, Mary Ellen, the Mississippi River Compact. The question we have is about people being thirsty for the lakes. And I'm from Wisconsin. We were very familiar with the Great Lakes Compact. Does this
Right.
function the same way? Does that protect it from being raided by water poor areas, or what is the main idea around them?
This is really a developing effort. We don't have a lot of information. It's been underway for a couple of years. The first effort is to form a group of mayors along the river. Right now, the organization behind it, which is a legal organization, is looking at focusing surveys and focus groups on stakeholders So they are aware of other compacts. The Colorado River has a compact. They can model after. It's a legal construct that is able to be used under our US Constitution. But it's going to take a lot of work before they get fully developed. I expect it'll take 2 or 3 more years.
As a follow-up question, probably not exactly a follow-up question, but you mentioned Betty McCollum and the work that she's doing. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Betty McCollum is working with the Mississippi River Network and the Friends of the Mississippi here in St. Paul, and to develop this bill, this Mississippi River Restoration and Resilience Initiative, or MIRI, will include money. It's again an appropriation bill that cities will be able to use for hardening their waterway. It's hardening. That's a funny word. Making themselves more resistant to flooding, because flooding causes a lot of damage up and down the river. It's funny to talk about that in drought years because it's not a problem. Just like climate change, it's cold today, right? Yeah.
Right.
So that one is that bill, and it also includes money for various kind of cleanup programs. So it's modeled on the Great Lakes Initiative, which is being used to clean up old hazardous waste sites and things like that around the Great Lakes.
Communities have different approaches to managing flooding. The city of Dubuque put up levees. They had a huge old industrial area on the river. That's a lot of river towns did have that. Dubuque's approach was to put up these gigantic levees, and they've turned that into a totally different area now. It's got recreational opportunities, it's businesses and breweries, and has the river boats. City of Davenport, not too far down from Dubuque, took an opposite approach. They said, we're going to let the river flood. They bought out the businesses along the river edge, and they built parks, baseball diamonds, recreational areas. And so when the river floods, it floods. So there are many different approaches to how you want to deal with flooding. And so those are all expensive to buy out existing businesses. So MIRI would be a tremendous asset for looking at better ways to manage flooding. Rivers are always going to flood. That's their nature.
There's a question that came in about how does UMR or other similar organizations, because we did see that list of organizations that UMR works with, how do we work with Native nations in the area who are also doing this kind of work in education? Is there any kind of collaborative effort going on specifically targeted to the local Native nations?
We haven't done anything yet, and we should be. I do follow several and repost a lot of things from the various tribal entities, especially in Minnesota, because I'm more exposed to them being here in St. Paul. And we did a blog post about their Treaty Rights Museum, and we've been covering some of that Water is Life picture was from the protest that we attended at the Capitol. So we've been following along, but we haven't joined together yet, and we should.
Okay. Another question, and because St. Paul, our League of Women Voters St. Paul, we have two very vibrant book clubs that pick kind of topics for the year, and we read specific kinds of books that all kind of have a similar thread. Do you have any, I know this is coming out of left field, maybe this is something we should have not jumped on you in live on TV, but do you have any book recommendations or any places that we might be able to find interesting?
Mary Ellen's so ready for that one.
I'm a bookaholic. No, not. The two books that my Des Moines League does book discussions in winter. And this year we UMR collaborated with my Metro Des Moines League, and we discussed Chris Jones, The Swine Republic. I highly, highly recommend it if you want to know about nutrient pollution, because the Swine Republic is really an expose on what big animal confinement operations are doing that pollute our waterways. Iowa has 3 million people. I think we have 83 million pigs. They're the country's largest pork producer. But you layer that on top of chickens for eggs, turkeys, and cattle are being raised in confinement now. So Chris Jones, the Swine Republic, I'm sure Gretchen has that on our blog. And coincidentally, the same time this spring, a colleague of mine, Neil Hamilton, is newly retired Dean of Agricultural Law at Drake University in Des Moines. He's published 2 books. The first one was called The Land Remains, which talks about the issues around soil erosion and the changes that we've made to our land. But the second one is more compelling, and I really urge people to read it. It's called The River Knows. The River Knows. These are published by Ice Cube Press in Iowa City. They're not expensive, $20. They're paperback. So Neil Hamilton's The River Knows and Chris Jones, The Swine Republic. And there are lots of documentaries. King Corn is an old one that talks about what happens when we go to this monoculture row crop with leaving the land bare after harvest. The media talks about cover crops. Less than 7% of the land in Iowa has cover crops on it. So along with books are documentaries that really do look into this.
Yeah, I've seen the King Corn, really
King Corn, yeah.
very dramatic to listen to watch that. Um, do we have any farmers besides yourself? Have we done outreach what kind of outreach do we do specifically to farmers, and do we ask them to join us in league and with Hummer?
Clarify the question. Are farmers engaged with the league? Is the league engaged with farmers? Is that what
Are
you want to?
farmers engaged with the leagues? Yeah, how do we ensure
Well,
that we're
that's
together?
where I have been really trying to bring that together, because ordinarily, as I said, league members are urban. And I am only one of 3 league members in Iowa that are active farmers. And I mean, I live 2 hours from Des Moines. That's my home league. So I'm a member of several farm groups. And the biggest one that supports what we're doing is the Farmers Union, and every state has a Farmers Union. It really is very effective, very progressive. And that would be the group that would probably be the most like-minded for us to work with. But again, can I talk about our art exhibit? Because I'm going to
Yeah, I
talk a
think,
little bit
we could
about
talk about farming and that connection for a long time. We've got a couple
that's
questions
the
coming
reason I
through,
want to
but
show it is we're actually going to go to some farm groups. I'm just going to quickly show you.
yep.
So I mentioned that we're a member of the Mississippi River Network, and late last year, very late last year, they announced that they had received a grant from American Rescue monies, I believe it was. Anyway, they got $100,000, and they decided to give out 10 $10,000 grants. And so on very short notice, we threw this together because this is a colleague of mine who's an artist advocate for clean water, Christine Curry in Des Moines. And we got $10,000. So we are touring this pop art, kind of a takeoff on Andy Warhol. There's Christine. And on the right, it's a little hard to see, but that is a big blow up aluminum pop can called Pure Iowa Sparkling Stream Water. But when you look on the back side, it details all the ingredients that are in it, which of course is all the pollutants coming off of the landscape. So what she did was she went and found 6 different landowners on 6 different rivers. This is my other colleague, Ann Wolf, who has farmland on the Mississippi, and she agreed to be profiled. And this is the exhibit that we'll be touring. So you can see how big these panels are. And so Nona has all of that information, and we are looking for locations along the river, but we're going to take it to the Iowa Farmers Union and any other state farmers union convention. It's going to go, we're collaborating with the Isaac Walton League because the league is all up and down the river, and this is their big emphasis this year is water quality. So Nona has all that information. We'd love to tour the exhibit in the Twin Cities region. We're working with the leagues in the Winona region. We've already booked Dubuque and Davenport, and I think La Crosse. So it's available. The expenses are covered. And if you've got a location, we'd love to bring it there. But we're also going into conservation districts of Iowa, for example, the group that I'm a member of as an elected water commissioner. Every state has watershed managers association, lots of opportunity to bring this exhibit to people doing the work on the ground and to bring it to local ag groups. Where won't we go? The Farm Bureau will never let us in. We know that,
Yeah.
no matter how hard we try, but we'll keep picking around the edges. And I will tell you, there are landowners and farmers that are very concerned about water quality, very concerned and doing active conservation. The unfortunate part is they're just in the minority of landowners.
Well, we are definitely going to do all we can to help promote this issue and this set of issues as we keep doing our Learn with the League. And thank you both very much for coming tonight and to talk about the Interleague organization, introducing us to the work that you're doing there and the important work that's going on around the Interleague organization.
I want to put in a plug for our annual meeting. Each member league will elect one voting delegate, okay?
Mhm.
So you will be doing that, but also anybody, any league member can come and join and learn by attending. They just can't vote. So just go on our website, sign up and learn more. We just signed up a gentleman called Stephen Marking. Maybe some of you know him, but he's done some wonderful documentaries on the upper Mississippi River. And he's going to be our special guest speaker at the annual meeting. So that should be very informative as well. So anybody can attend those.
Wonderful. Well, again, we are coming up on time and I want to make sure that we get through the rest of our thank yous. And again, Gretchen and Mary Ellen, thank you so much for your time. And we will make sure that all of the information is linked on our YouTube page so that people can see about both the installation and about Ummer. And hopefully we'll be able to get some people to join in as part of the organization. We really, really appreciate your time. This is going to be a big year, right? 2024 is a giant voting year. There are other upcoming events and dates for your reference here. The St. Paul League will be running candidate forums through September, so please watch for them and come in person or view them online. Vote 411 is the website that we promote to get all your voting information, and we're here to help you. Please mark April 23rd on your calendars for the next program. We're going to be talking about Ramsey County judges and attorneys who meet at the Midway YMCA to counsel women on legal issues. They listen to community members, they offer insight and suggestions, and they provide a meal. They're really special women, and it should be really great to hear about that program. The League is fully committed to its nonpartisan nature, while educating the public on candidates as well as promoting reliable and secure elections for the country. For more than 100 years, we study issues, we take positions, and we take action. Check out our website to learn more about the League learn more about membership in League of Women Voters St. Paul and in Ummer. We welcome new members throughout the year. Please give us a try. And again, gratitude to the Roseville and White Bear Lake Leagues for their support tonight. We know quite a few of you were on the call, and to SEC TV and the St. Paul Neighborhood Network for broadcasting the program. Please stay on the line just for a couple extra minutes and answer a brief survey that'll pop up after the program. We read all of your responses, and we are always looking for ways to improve and stay relevant to your interests. So have a great evening.